Welcome to Unlocking Freedom in Nature and Art. So excited that you're here today, and thanks for letting me take a break last Tuesday. So I needed some time off with my grandson, but at the same time, our guest had to change her schedule. So it all worked out for the best. So thanks for being here today. We do appreciate every time you're on here because I know time is so important. But I am so excited to welcome our next guest here, Elaine Martini. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did perfect. Thank you.
All right. And Elena, it's Elaine. Where are you coming from today?
So I'm based in Portugal. I'm just, south of Portugal in the Algarve. It's a beautiful area, especially like with nature. It's a beautiful with you got the combination of the beaches and the mountains and yeah, I love it.
That just sounds so sweet. So I'm just picturing the sandy beaches. Is it in palm trees? Is that correct? Or what kind of
No, not
trees?
palm. It's kind of like there's a lot of cork trees and olive trees. So it's a little bit like it's a very dry area as well. So you
Okay.
get a lot of that. And there's like, well, especially in the winter this year, it rained a lot. So it changed quite a bit, the nature around where I live. But yeah, the trees are a little bit different. They're not like those huge, because I usually live in the UK for a very long time. So it's quite a different type of like landscape, but I really love it. It's like is to be fair, it's quite completely extreme from the UK. Even with the heat, it's very hot compared to how the UK is. But yeah, I love it. I'm kind of like discovering it. Every time I go out for a walk, I'm like, wow, okay, there's this place too. And yeah.
You're going to have to share some photos so we can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have quite a lot of photos on my Instagram because like I love sharing, like I love creating with nature as well. That's my inspiring place. I go when I need a bit of peace and quiet, but also when I need to connect with my creativity. Having like even 10 minutes walking around in nature makes such a difference for me. So yeah, I'm constantly sharing pictures and yeah, videos and things like that.
I love it because I'm with you. It's like it just gives you that more clear mind set, I
Yeah.
guess is the way to describe it. Things come to you when you're like sitting in the front of the computer, right? And you're like, should
Oh,
I do
yeah.
this or this or this? And you're like going back and forth. But when you go out in nature on a walk, I just always feel like it just brings you back and you just
Mm.
can think clear. So,
Yeah. And at least, like I say this to people all the time, that the people that I work with, that actually nature for me was one of my first teachers. I learned so much from nature. Even like I got quite a lot into meditation quite a long time ago now. And for me, walking in nature and connecting with nature is also a form of meditation because it really helps me connect to myself deeper. It helps me quiet my mind. It helps me like honestly, I learned so much from it that I not only from like observing and connecting and being out there, like sometimes 5 minutes of fresh air can completely change how you feel.
oh yeah, definitely. So, I I totally agree. So, well, now we're going to be talking more about this, but right now I want to pull you back to when you were young, talk about where you grew up, and find out more about you growing up because it's always interesting seeing that side of you as a kid, as a teenager. So, I want to take you back there.
Okay.
So,
So I grew up in a tiny village that was called Harmony, which yeah, is
that's a
quite
beautiful
interesting.
name.
Yeah, it was a tiny little village, and I lived in there until I was 7, and it was really beautiful because it was like all open. There was only a small number of houses, and there was this big like nature reserve at the back of it. And there was a lake that I used to go and swim. And yeah, that's how I learned to swim actually in the lake. And I didn't have lessons when I was younger. And that was like me growing up until I was about 7. And then my dad had a better, well, he received a job promotion in a bigger city in Brazil. And that was, we went from this tiny little village to a city of 2 million people. So that
Wow.
for me was, yeah, it was quite a shock. And I I like it took me quite a while to adapt. And it was funny because one of the things that really helped me to adapt was that I joined Scouts. And I know you got that in America as well.
Yes, we do.
And one of the things, and again, I think that's the first time that I connected with nature a lot when I was younger. But then for Scouts, it's like we usually go camping and do activities, and that's what really helped me with that transition, because then it kind of like brought back that sense of what I like, that a little bit of finding that peace again that I felt lost when I moved to a bigger city.
Your
And
home.
then, yeah, so I was in Brazil until I was around 20. And then I got a scholarship to do my master degree in building restoration in Rome. And that was
Okay.
something that, yeah, is something that happened from one day to the next. It was literally like I was applying to a lot of different opportunities. And then I got a call and they were like, you gotta come in 2 days. And it was one of those moments, and there was like pretty much every part of me that was saying, oh no, don't go, because you always have that fear that triggers you. But then I felt if I don't go, I will regret this forever. So I left everything that I had. I had a job, I was like obviously starting my life after studying architecture, and I left everything and I went and I never came back.
So I'm going to even pull you back a little bit further. So, what were you
Yeah.
like as a teenager?
I was like, when I was younger, I was very quiet. I was very highly sensitive. I was like I was always writing poetry. It was when I actually started writing. So obviously nowadays I'm publishing books and things like that. But that was the beginning of it. I was like, for me, spending time either in nature or in my bedroom writing was two of my favorite things. So I was a very introvert when I was younger. I had a group of friends, but they were like only a small group of friends. I wasn't someone going to parties or things like that. For me, it was always about like I really was the person that my friends used to say all the time, "Oh, you're so deep. You're always thinking about everything and all the layers and like yeah." So that was kind of me when I was younger, and I felt very much a bit like him, even like a little bit weird for my age, because I felt a little bit like I didn't fit in a lot. And I always had this feeling in me that was like, okay, I don't know if this is the right place for me or if this is the life that I want to be living. So I felt a little bit out of place when I was younger.
I totally get it.
Mm,
It's interesting because when you look back, you pick up those things, and I think so many people think you're either an introvert or an extrovert, but you can actually be both.
yeah,
If
that's
you
something
think
I
about
learned
it,
in that.
because
Yeah,
there's sometimes you're just quiet and you just want to be alone, but it all depends on who you're with.
yeah, yeah,
Some people bring that best out of you and listen, and you love being with them, but there's other times we just want to be in nature,
yeah.
right? Listening.
Yeah, I found that nowadays I really got to learn the balance for me. So I do need time alone. Like I am someone that I do need time. Like I said, for me, time alone, I mean, in nature, or if I need to rest, or if I need to be like when I'm doing my own creative work and I'm writing, I do feel like I work better when I'm by myself. So it's almost like those times to recharge and reconnect to myself. And then I have times that I absolutely love being with people. And obviously nowadays I do a lot of speaking and connecting with people different ways. And I absolutely love that. So I really like, I found my own balance in that. And I feel that's why I love that you said that about, I feel so often society try to put us in boxes. So you're either an introvert or you're an extrovert. And for me, I'm a bit of both, but I can only be an extrovert and connect with other people when I actually took the time to connect to myself and give myself what I need. So that's the way I see it nowadays.
I love that. So it's so true. So what led you to become an architect? Did you love drawing houses? What was it? Was it looking at buildings? Exactly what led you there?
So when I was younger, like I said, when I had those teenage years, I was writing a lot and I ended up winning a couple of competitions and I had my poetry like published. And I remember I had this conversation with my dad at one point, and obviously my dad was coming from a place of love. And at that time when I grew up, being a writer wasn't really a career that you could like most people would say you would never be able to make a living out of writing because it was a completely different world than it is nowadays. So we sat down, my dad was like, okay, let's think of like try and think about other professions because that one probably not going to work out. And then is when I went towards architecture because I felt, okay, that still gives me a good level of like, I still have a lot of creativity in it. And, but I obviously have a profession then that is something like a career that is something that would give me more of the financial stability. And and then when I went to study architecture, I actually ended up falling in love with restoring buildings. So that's why I went to study in Rome. I went to study I did my master degree in building restoration. And what I realized nowadays is that there was kind of like this thread around stories going through there as well, because I love the side of like finding out about building, looking at the story of the building, the people that live there, what happened to the building. So kind of like getting to the layers underneath and studying what happened to it, and then creating a way that that building can still survive, can still be something that people are using it and can still be part of a community and things like that. And then obviously I noticed that with the work that I do now, with like then kind of choosing to go full on into writing, and then it's kind of like connected through that because I love people's stories. Like I love learning where people come from, what kind of like shape them into who they are, because I feel stories is very much what connects people. So I can see that thread kind of like traveling through my life when I went into architecture, and I still, like I said, I still love that side. And then now it's stepping into something that I always dreamed of, which since I was quite young. So that's kind of how I ended up in there.
So, well, it's very interesting. So, apparently, you did not stay in architecture, though.
No, I didn't. No, I did it for over 20 years.
20 years? That's
So
a long time.
yeah, I was always writing on the side. So it's kind of like I was being an architect, and then I had my own company in the UK doing kitchen design because I then specialized a little bit. And it was like, even with the kitchen design, when I was doing it for like for people, I remember the thing I loved the most was when I went to someone's house, and then I would sit down and I would talk to the family, and I really wanted to understand how their family worked, how did they spend their time, what that space of the kitchen, what was the best way for that to be designed to help those people, like to serve them in the best possible way. So that in a way is also that same thread going through of like wanting to, because like a kitchen, if you really think about it, and I come from an Italian family, so there's a lot of like food is so important, and like
Oh,
I
it is.
remember cooking with my grandma, and so the kitchen is kind of like the heart of the home because that's where you like creating those moments, and you like cooking something for your family. And so it's like I said, I feel like even that I had some very different careers, I feel there's a thread that runs through, which is that thing around stories, around connecting with people, and around helping them to create what will serve them the best.
Oh, it's so important. I know my husband was in construction, and I've done design work for, even though as an artist, I've had people call me in for kitchen design or colors and different things, and I love doing that interior design because, like you said, you can't do anything until you get to know that person or that
Yeah,
family, what they're about. Because if you design it for you, it's not going to work for them. you know
yeah,
it has to be designed for them. It's like for every art piece that I create for a client, I go and listen to the story. I see their home, see how they decorate, see their photographs, have them tell me stories of hiking or adventures that meant so much or brought a memory to them, and find one that fits in the area that they want me to design a piece for. But without stories,
yeah,
it's not going to feel the same when it's done. So I am sure your clients were so thrilled having you there because it is stories. And I love the fact that, like you said, buildings are stories. Their
yeah.
architect, I know my kids just came back from, some of them had been in Rome, Portugal, Spain, those different places, and they were sharing their photographs. And it's kind of sad because in the US, we're missing out on some of those really beautiful buildings. I mean, we have some of them that are older, but it's just like when I look at those photographs where they're, I'm like, oh my gosh, those are just so gorgeous because there's so much. I guess I see the work, I see the craftsmanship, and then at the same time, you know there's a story behind it.
Yeah.
Did you have any favorite buildings that you found was like one of the most interesting stories of a building that you were at that you never knew until you saw that building?
Oh, I had so
And
many. It's just like I had, yeah, so many. But like one thing that I love, I actually connect more to buildings that are not, let's say I go to a city and it's not the tourist places that attract me the most or the biggest buildings or the most, let's say the most a castle or something like that. For me, I really love going to the buildings where the people actually lived in them and where you can actually tell the story of the people of the place. Because you quite often find that you might, even in Europe, you might go to a place and there's a castle and you go there and it's literally just telling the story of one, quite often the rich family or the powerful family, but it doesn't tell the story of the whole village, of the whole area, of the people, how they lived, how they worked. And I'm actually more interested in those kind of stories because for me, that's what really, I don't know, is what really lights me up is actually connecting to real people, real lives, what they're doing, how they worked, how they lived. But there was like this particular building in Rome that I loved, which was a church, not one of the main churches. It was a church kind of like a little bit outskirts. And when you looked at the church from the outside, it wasn't that interesting. It was just like a normal church, especially if you compare to the churches you find in Rome. It was just like another church. And you go in, and yes, it was interesting. But then there was like the stairs, and you would go down. As you went down, just underneath the church, there was this like older medieval church. And then you went down another layer, and there was this Roman old house that was like literally underneath. So in this church, that you looked from above, you would just look like a normal church, and then you go down, and it was all these layers. And for me, it was such an interesting, like, even if you relate that to ourselves, like we have so many layers. And like, actually, one of the things that I'm talking with, like in my community, the work that we're doing now, we're working a little bit deeper into ancestral, like all the things that we inherited from our culture and our previous generations and things like that. I feel that church was very much like that. There was that lower level of the Roman house. Then there was a church that was built on top of that, which was like more medieval. And then there was this church that was actually outside that didn't look that interesting. But then when you really went under, it was like, wow, all this lives like here. And yeah, that was probably the one that pops in my mind now. But there was so many. It was like literally, I go into houses like some jobs that I would do like the people I worked with when I was doing the kitchen. Sometimes I'll go to their house and spend hours just like, wow, look at this, look at that. It's about also finding details, like it doesn't matter how old it is or how important it was. Even you mentioned about America, I find that it is about also changing the way we look at things. Because if
our
we look from
perspective.
the point, yeah, because if we look from the point of view, oh, we don't have that, but then you have many other things that they
Oh, we
don't have
do. And
anywhere
we have,
else.
and actually, I had uncles and aunts that actually built some of the beautiful buildings and stuff. But I have, and you talk about ancestors that actually had the castles and stuff over in those areas. So, but at the same time, I want to hear the stories. It's like, okay, what led them to that? What was their
Yeah,
perspective? Were they good, bad, all
yeah,
that? But it's kind of like a friend was talking that lives over in Fiji. He was mentioning the fact that, a lot of times people, all they see is the tourist attractions when they go over,
yeah,
but they never
yeah,
take the time to get to know the people, the
yeah,
behind the scenes. And actually, when I travel, I try to go to the behind the scenes because I want to see what the place is like. I want to know what the people are like. I want
yeah,
to get to know somebody because, like you said, it's layers. And no matter where you are, it's your perspective and your attitude. If you go with a good attitude, you're going to have a better perspective. You're going to
yeah.
listen better.
And I think for me, like I traveled a lot because I love traveling. But I found that for me, what I really enjoy about traveling is how it can open your perspective. And the only way to do that is for you to actually connect with people from that place, or connect with places that are not, like you said, not the tourist attractions. I find that quite often, if I do go to a place and I decide to go to a tourist attraction, I quite often feel a little bit disappointed because I'm just like, oh, okay, but it's just like everyone here is just here to take pictures or to like. I remember even recently when I was in Brazil, I went to see, I don't know if you ever heard of Foz do Iguaçu, the Iguazu Falls. It's one
Okay.
of the seven wonders, like natural wonders of the world. And it's this most amazing place, honestly, is like something, if you look up, you see what I mean. It's just incredible. And there was so many people kind of like pushing each other to take a picture, to do a video. And I was like, look at this, just for a moment, just like, even if it's like a minute, just like, look at how incredible nature can be, how incredible being in a place like this can be. And it really makes you, like I said, for me, it really expands my mind in the sense of like we can be so caught up on daily life and our worries and the things that really makes us like, when we feel like everything is falling on top of us. And then you go to a place like that, or you go to like, yeah, like even like it doesn't need to be just nature, but even historical places or cities or whatever it is, you can really connect to that openness and be like, wow, okay, I can, and you kind of like let go a little bit of it, and you're like, wow, things can be way bigger than they feel like because we're so caught up on what we're going through.
Yeah, what was funny is I was talking with my grandson when we were hiking yesterday, and we were talking about like some of the national parks and even in the U.S. and how sometimes they're so crowded with people
Yeah,
that you just hear that noise and you don't. They're missing out on the quietness. And I was like, yeah, that's why I usually, if I do go, I get up at 4 a.m. to, at sunrise, or you go in the evening at sunset, just to get away from that noise. Now, where we were
yeah,
hiking at, yeah, yesterday and then on Saturday, those there was no one there. So
yeah,
it was so quiet, and you can just hear all the animals and the quietness of the forest,
yeah,
or the wind and stuff. It was beautiful. But at the same time, what was funny is talking about perspectives. Like my grandson wanted to do a summit first, and I'm like going, why? I'm like, okay, let's see if I can do this. And part of it was like this, straight up. And I'm like going, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, because we were hiking and we're up at that straight part. In my backpack, I felt like I was getting pulled back over
wow,
because it was so steep. And I was like, I'm like, no, I just don't know if I can do this. I mean, maybe you should just go up by yourself. And he's like, no, you can do it. And then this other couple comes down and they're like, oh, you're only 10 minutes away. You can do it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take my backpack off and leave it here,
yeah,
and carry my bear spray with me, clip it to my waist. And he had the gun, because we have to have stuff because there are grizzlies in our area. And took my drink, and because I had to have hands free, and I had to have my hiking stick to crawl, because it was so steep in areas. But
wow,
once I was up there, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so, so beautiful. But
yeah,
what's funny, and it was great, and I have shared a few photos. But then, what was it, yesterday, when I was putting my pack on, I was like, I know what happened. My pack had came loose, but I was so concentrated on the fact that I was going up that I wasn't thinking that, because I was like, why is it pulling me back? Well, it was because it had came loose up here on top. But I wasn't thinking of that. I was just
yeah,
thinking of being terrified that I was going to fall over. But
yeah,
that just shows our perspectives can change so fast. And
yeah,
sometimes
and
we
I,
have to look at somebody else's perspective. And that's why it's good to encourage others, right? Or inspire others,
yeah,
because just those a few words might encourage them to go further. And then when they see that beauty, a few minutes away and finish, then there's like, oh my gosh, it was well worth it.
yeah. And I feel there's quite a few things on that story that you shared that are quite like well, I said before, I like to look at the deeper layer of things. So I feel like there's few things in there. First of all, I feel like the fact that so many times there are people that they're so close to getting somewhere that is really meaningful. And I mean, this is even, I say this to people all the time. Like I had this dream of publishing a book since I was 13. And I lived with that dream for 30 years. And there were so many times I thought of giving up. And if I had given up, I wouldn't have got where I was. So there was that point, even in the story you sharing, that you thought about giving up. But then instead of doing that, obviously there was also the fact that someone helped you to encourage you. So I feel that's something really important, and we don't realize sometimes how helpful we can be, even with saying a word to someone or just like or like even seeing them. Because I feel there's so many people nowadays that feel unseen. So and
Yeah,
nowadays I really
yeah.
make a point of like if I see anyone doing something that is inspiring, or I'll make a point of saying it because I know that we don't really know what's going on the inside. And then the other thing I really loved that you did was finding a way to continue because you like, then what did you do? You stopped, you took your backpack off, and you're like, okay, I'm going to carry on like this. And I feel that's so important because quite often we get overwhelmed with things and we think of giving up. But then that's the point that you can look and you say, okay, what can I do here to carry on, even if it's with smaller steps? So I've done a year and a half ago, I've done the Camino de Santiago, which I don't know if you heard of, is a walk that you do to like from a lot of different places in Europe to get to Santiago. So I walked 250 kilometers with a backpack. And there was quite a few times that I was like that. I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this? What's the point of this? And but then again, you think, okay, I want to continue. There is a why to this. So how can I continue? And then you find ways to like take a bit of the load off. And like you did, literally, you literally took your
Yeah, I
backpack
did.
off and you continued. And maybe you continue like in a slower pace and you're like, okay, it doesn't matter. It'll take me 2 hours more, but I'll get there. So it's about finding ways to carry on if it's something that feels aligned to your own heart and what is right for you in ways that you can still continue instead of giving up. So I love that story because it kind of like, again, I love looking at like, illustrating so many different things that you can apply to your everyday life. So yeah.
Yeah, it was. It must have meant to be, right? So, and I'm
Yeah.
not one for giving up so easily, but it's like when you're in one of those situations, you're just like, what am I gonna do here? So, yeah, but at the end, I was so happy that I made it, and thank you.
Yeah.
I love how you said it because that's kind of what my thought was going because it has so much meaning
Yeah.
in everyday life of how people give up, and sometimes we just have to get rid of some of that baggage or luggage to move
Yeah.
on.
And I feel like one thing I would say is that, like the feeling you had up the mountain? I would like what I do nowadays is that I very intentionally kind of put those moments into boxes so that I can remember them when I'm going through a difficult time, when I'm going through a time when I'm thinking of giving up. And then I'll take one of those moments that I had experiences like that, and I'll be like, okay, but when I didn't give up, there was something incredible that happened afterwards. And then you connect to that feeling again and you try and bring it to what you're going through right now, and you're like, okay, I know like I traveled something like that before. Let me apply this back to here because I know it can pay off for me to continue whatever way I can. And I feel there's like nowadays there's a lot of push towards you achieving things quickly, or like kind of this hustle culture that kind of works against us because we get to points that we burn out or we give up. And I feel it's so important that it doesn't matter how long it takes. It just matters that you do it at a pace that is right for you. And there will be like different paces in the journey as well. Like sometimes you got to slow down, sometimes you can go fast, and that's part of it.
Oh, and and I love the way you describe that because it's so true. Because even hiking, it's like my grandson's 6'2", and so he can hike a lot faster and take
Yeah.
one step where I had to take two steps for his one.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, it seems like, and I walk fast compared to other people that I've gone hiking with, to where I
Yeah.
have to slow down and wait for them. It's because everybody goes at their own pace. And just because somebody goes at this pace doesn't mean you have to. You go at the pace that's good for you, right?
Yeah, and it's like it just reminded me like when I walked the Camino de Santiago, there was when the first day I ended up walking quite fast because I just like I had there were people that were walking as well, and I just felt, when you kind of feel you're gonna keep to other persons. I was walking by myself, but I mean there were people doing the same walk.
Right.
And then after the first day, I woke up and I had so much pain over my muscles and my feet. I was like, okay, I need to make a decision here that I'm going to walk at my own pace if I want to finish this. And then a couple of days after, I met this lady, and I can't remember exactly the age, but she was nearly 70. And she was doing the same walk, but she was doing around 2 kilometers a day. And for me, that was so, and I was literally getting goosebumps because she was so inspiring because she was like, doesn't matter. I'm going to get there. Like people are doing, some people do this walk in like 10 days, 11 days. She said, I'm probably going to take 2 months, but it doesn't matter because I'm doing it and I'm doing it at a pace that I can do it. And I looked at her and I said, oh my God, you're so inspiring. If I get to your age with that mindset and with that like willpower, that conviction, that kind of like, I'm doing this whatever way I can. It was so incredible. So for me, again, that's why I said that for me, it's like nature and meeting people and hearing these stories really helps me with my own journey and like with helping them other people as well. And I was like, you get examples like that every day. It doesn't need to be something incredible that you're doing. Literally, a walk can teach you so much about your own strength, how to go and travel your own path in life, what pace or whatever. There's so many lessons that you can get just from things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, never giving up, right? So,
Hmm.
and and that's how we, according, like you said, our title from our story, what if everything you're searching for is already within you?
Yeah.
Because it's so true, because it's in us, but sometimes we need others to encourage us, or go, if you go out in nature, that's where I find more about myself, is just
Yeah.
doing those, because I find I can achieve more a lot of times than I even thought I could when I go and spend that time outside.
Yeah, and you get inspiration, it's just like, or even giving yourself, like you talked a lot about noise, how the world is so busy nowadays. And I find for me, sometimes I go on a walk on near where I live, which is a walk that I know very well. And most people would think, oh, but okay, that's done. There's nothing incredible about that. But for example, I like to go on that walk and I like to notice things that are different that were not there before. So I literally go around and I'm like, oh yeah, that flower wasn't here yesterday, or oh, that tree looks different, and there's something because nature teaches us that things are always changing. We have this impression that is always the same because we get into a routine, but actually no day is the same and we're changing constantly. And then if you like go out for a walk and you're literally just noticing things that are different, you come back home and you're different already. And you didn't need anything external. You're literally just connecting to, I say to people all the time, I find one of the most powerful things that like is your attention and your awareness. Because whatever you put your attention and your awareness, you're changing how you feel, you're changing how you think, you're changing how you see the world. It's like someone can go through exactly the same experience as you, come out of it completely different. So what's the difference? It's you. Is what you getting out of that experience, is what you focusing on, is what you bringing your awareness, your attention, what lessons are you getting into your life. So I do feel like nowadays there's this focus always on the out kind of like, what is the world doing? I need to do the same. What are the people who are, how successful are the people? And it really is about your own journey and how do you do it your own way. That's the only way for you to actually feel happy, fulfilled, have a life that feels like, wow, I love my life, is really following your own guidance, your own intuition, your own kind of like, I like to call it inner compass, like your own. So yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. You're so much like me. Because when I go on, I hike. So I have a hike that's only a few miles away that I hike at least once or twice a week. And people, how do you do that? I'm like, it's beautiful. And there's always something new. I
Yeah.
always notice something different, because I'm like you, I'm always like looking, it's like, okay, what's going to be new today?
Yeah.
But it's just getting out, but awareness. And that's one of the things I teach when I do retreats and different things, is the awareness. And that's part of the reason I do the podcast, because I want people to realize the beauty around us. And you're speaking my language, we'll just put it that way, because it's so true. And a lot of people don't notice. And I don't know how many times I come with people, they're just looking at their watch to see how many steps or how many miles. And it's like, did you take time to see this, that chipmunk there, or that squirrel, or that bird, or the flower? It's like we were
Yeah.
noticing flowers up on and the butterflies up on the mountain yesterday, how many different ones there were. It's just those little things, or the sap coming out of the tree, on this one
Yeah.
tree, it's like you just start, when you start to observe and start being more aware of what's there, you'll even start noticing more. Is that,
Yeah, and it kind
is
of
what I find.
Yeah, and it reflects back to your life. So sometimes I tell people, like, you don't need to go to a walk, just go around your home and try and notice five things you never seen before. Five things you never noticed. And this can be obviously that I'm coming like I come from the architecture background, so I'm constantly looking for details. So I feel that helped me a lot nowadays with what I do as well, because I'm constantly looking for details. But it's like you can literally look at your home and you can be like, what five things I never noticed before? And this can be the way the light comes into the room, or the way like a sound that you never paid attention before, or it can be anything. So yeah, it's like there's so many ways, and I love the fact that you mentioned about the watches, counting steps, and because one of the things that I found that was really important in my journey and really helped people with is also connecting back to our bodies. And I remember I went to a like when the not watches, but I remember I bought pedometer like a long time ago,
Right.
and I went for a walk and I noticed that I was focusing more on the pedometer than I was focusing on my own body, on that I was focusing on what I was seeing. And then for me, it was like, okay, I'm never doing this again. I'm actually, because that's the other thing, even if you wanted to, you can actually go for this walk. And I do this sometimes, and I'm not focusing outside, I'm focusing in my body. So I'm paying attention how my feet are touching the ground, what muscles am I using, how does my breathe feel? I connect to my chest and I feel like, is my chest feeling expansive? Or so you're kind of like getting out of your head because it's so easy. Like we spend so much time and energy in our heads or like worrying. I used to struggle a lot with anxiety and overthinking. So for me, that was a way to kind of like get my awareness out of my mind and into my body. So paying attention to, again, like so many times you might have a pain or you might have some feeling somewhere. And then if I do feel connecting to even when your body wants to stop and when your body wants to carry on. And yeah, there's so much that you can explore that most people then, if you really kind of focus on something external, you're not going to be doing that.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's like you're yesterday when we were hiking up to Harrison Lake. So it's because the erosion and people walking, a lot of rock, right? And even
Mm.
though we're on main runs on the trail, but you're having to watch your steps so you don't
Yeah.
trip and fall. But at the same time, you're noticing everything. But when you're going up a hill like that, and it's like, we'll put it, say, it's at least moderate to difficult trail. Not
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's going to walk it. But it's like
Yeah.
we still had to stop every so often just to catch our breath, to
Yeah.
take a drink, to notice that I was like, okay, we need to stop. It's take a time out, relax, or like this when you're talking about that. So a friend and I hiked this other trail in March. And so in order to get up back out because it's so steep, we're like, okay, we'll do 100 steps.
Yeah.
We were counting basically to take a break, to help each other, because you're just like going, you feel like you're
Yeah.
panting like a dog
Yeah.
because it's so hard.
Yeah.
But there's like so much reward at the end because you're like,
Yeah.
we actually made it, it's like, but you're there to encourage each other. So it's always good to have somebody as a partner, because it's one of the things I always trust everybody: never hike alone. Unless you're on a trail that's close by, that's not someplace that you're gonna could get hurt or seriously. But when you hike together, especially on something a hard, difficult trail or journey in life, when you have somebody that you can trust or count on to encourage or inspire you, it makes a difference.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that you connect that to life as well, because I feel so many of us, and there's so much of this culture out there of like, I succeed alone, like I've done everything by myself. And I feel, yes, you can, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the best way to do it. Because I feel there's something really special when you sharing and you kind of like, that's one of the reasons that after I launched my book, I created a community as well, that we do a lot of this deeper work together because I've done so much of this, let's say, inner healing and like work on myself by myself. And then I feel like nowadays when we do this together, it's completely different because seen, you feel understood, you feel there's someone that saw your journey as well. So yeah, I love that you're mentioning that because that's so, I feel that like is one of the things that nowadays people are really missing is that sense of connection with others. But that's why I say all the time, it starts with connecting with yourself deeper so that then you can connect with other people at that same level. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that because
Well,
that's true.
mentors and coaches are so important, and yeah, I'm self taught, but at the same time, I study books, I studied other people. I'm always learning something every day. Like yesterday, I learned how to adjust my hiking sticks better from my grandson. You never know who you're going to learn from. Age does not matter.
Yeah,
It's your attitude, it's perspective. But when we take that time to just enjoy life and learn, but it's kind of like I told somebody, it's like, why do we want to struggle so much when we can learn from a mentor or coach or somebody
yeah,
else? I mean, why
yeah,
waste our time? Time is so precious. So, and when you can join communities that can encourage and inspire you, why not? And
yeah.
I hope everyone here that's watching, I appreciate you watching. For some reason today, questions and stuff are not showing up. But I want to just say thank you for being here. Be sure to answer. If you have a questions for Elaine or I, let us know. I'm so excited to have Elaine joining our group here. But we're here to encourage and to inspire. And I love it when people share in our group inspiration, of some type. It's just so meaningful because it shows that it's a community that's here to support each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so important. And I love that you mentioned also about learning independent of age. Because it's like as soon as you said that, I remembered when there was this conversation I had with my niece, and she was only 3 years old. She was very young. And it was my birthday, and she was like, "Oh, happy birthday." And I said to her, "Oh, I'm getting old." And then she said to me, "No, you're not." I said, "Okay, how old is old for you then? Is it like when I get to 50, is it old?" She said, "No, you wouldn't be old." And I was like, okay, when I get to 60, she was like, no, that's not old. I said, whoa, what age is old for you then? And she said, well, you're only old when you die. And I was like, literally looking at this 3-year-old girl, I was like, wow, I'm going to take some time to pack this because it was so deep, Like, I was like,
That
why haven't I thought of
yes.
this before? I was like, wow, okay, I need to
I,
unpack this.
I love that quote. That's a great quote from her
I know.
because it's so true. Because that's kind of how I live. Because it's amazing people would look at and say, well, what are you going to do when you're 40? You're getting
Mm,
old, or 50 or 60, and I'm 60. I just turned 62. And I'm like going, I don't even think of age. I think of what can I do? How can
yeah,
I help somebody today? How can I encourage, inspire? What am I going to do? I
yeah,
don't sit there dwelling on age, or it's like, oh, this part of my body hurts or this hurts. Well, my body's hurt since I was 22. So,
yeah,
you know, young, what people forget is even when we were younger, we hurt at times.
yeah, yeah,
It all depends on your attitude and what you want to achieve. Like you said, we might have to take smaller steps. Doesn't mean that we have to stop living. And so many people stop living, or they think, oh, I'm going to retire. And then they stop living. They just, sit around or whatever. And then those are the people that die the quickest. I mean,
yeah.
that's statistics. So, and that's kind of sad. It's like go and enjoy life while you can, because a day is never promised.
No, it's like that's the one thing is I say to people all the time that so many people are focused nowadays on money, but time is really the thing that you don't know how much you have, and it's the one thing you can't replace. So for me, it really became over the last, I don't know, at least over a decade now. For me, it was like, how can I make the most of the time that I'm here for? And it doesn't mean like I say to people all the time, it doesn't mean you need to become someone really important or be doing these incredible things. You create an impact by talking to someone on the street, instead of being rushing around like so many people rush around But like so many times I stop and I talk to people if they like, especially older people, you find that they always want to talk and they feel like this need to connect with people. And I'll stop and I'll talk because for me, it's just like I'm gaining wisdom here, and this person is gaining something that they're also going to take from this moment into their life. So the more present. So that's why it comes back to being aware and present and being like, instead of me constantly thinking about the next thing or rushing or how can I make the most of this moment where I am with what I have now? Because again, it's so easy to be thinking when I have this or when I do this or when I travel or when I go to Europe or it's not about bring back to this moment. How can I make the most of this moment with what I have now? And it can be so simple.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. So, well, and reminds me, how many times have you gone to places and everybody or different homes and people are sitting there on each on their cell phone with the TV playing and they're
Yeah.
not communicating, or they'll even text each other in the same room. But that's where nature is good when you're spending out time outside because it makes people put that phone down. So
Yeah.
they're actually communicating, and creating memories. And for somebody, it doesn't matter. It is an impact. They're going to remember that time that you took to talk to them, to listen to them, especially if they could be having a hard day and you took that moment to be that person to listen to them.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
very, and it's very precious because that's your time and that was some of their time, but sometimes those people just need, like you said, a few minutes, or they can need hours. So it all just depends on the person and what you're going through. And yes, there's times you have to, because I used to do mentoring and coaching with youth, you have to limit, because otherwise there's some people that would hold you hostage all the time,
Oh yeah.
because but so you have to, what do you call it, not barrier,
Boundaries.
boundaries, yes, that's the word. You have to put
That's another
boundaries.
territory, which is
Totally
important as well.
different.
Yeah.
Right, we could talk for hours on that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because then
But
you're talking about yourself. Like you obviously gotta create boundaries so you protect yourself, you know? You give and you receive. So boundaries are very important in that. Absolutely.
so I can't believe how fast time's been going here, but let's hear about where you're at now and what you do. So
Yeah, so obviously then over the last few years, I decided to go full on into my dream, which was writing. So I had my book published a year ago, which is called Truly Connected, Create a Life and Work Guided by Your Inner Wisdom, Authenticity and Soul. And that's when the book is very much like that. The first half of the book is around connecting to yourself deeper. So connecting to your inner wisdom, your creativity, your purpose, all those things like your uniqueness, because I find so many people try and fit into boxes, and we all here unique, and there's a purpose to that, there's a design to that. And then the second part is around how then you create a life and work that is aligned with that. So, and then after that, like I mentioned, then a community came out of that because people really loved the book and they were like, we don't want this discussion to end. How can we go deeper into subjects? So that's what we do in the community that I have that is called the Connected Life Path, which is we go deeper into subjects. So we done dreams, we done money stories and beliefs. We actually done a whole inner journey around time and our relationship with time. And we did one around home, finding home within yourself. And at the moment, we're exploring these layers of ancestral, what we inherited, not even knowing quite often. So yeah, that's kind of like where my life guided. Yeah, I'm very much in this mission to help as many people as possible to really connect to the truth within them and bring that out in the world because I feel that's really what makes, whenever you connected deeply to your heart and your soul, is when you bring the most to the world. And that's how we create impact really and create change.
and that's amazing. What's funny is a lot of your subjects were the same as mine in my book. So
Oh,
I love it.
yeah.
It's,
Now I
I mean,
can't believe.
I feel so blessed because I always have the most amazing guests on this show. And I hope everyone that's watching, I hope you realize all those special nuggets that you're getting from
Mm,
each one of my guests, because you each offer so many things. and they'd be blessed just to have you guys as mentors or coaches or, just knowing you as part of this community. And of course, I'll recommend your book for them to get. But on Monday marketings for everybody out there, you're welcome to post like your books that you're selling or your classes in the comment section. So that's what I designed it for, just so people know who is in our community out there that, hey, here's
Yeah.
a great book, here's a great mentor. It's,
It's beautiful that you're creating this space, it takes a lot of work to be creating these spaces. And so, yeah, I really appreciate, and I love the fact that, yeah, our work is so connected as well. And I can't believe how quickly the time went as well. So if you ever want to continue the conversation, because I feel
yes,
we could carry on for hours.
we're gonna have you back, Elaine, so we can
Yeah,
discuss more because, yeah, I can't believe how time flew. Definitely, all you have to do is just reschedule, and we'll
we will do
we'll
that.
continue the conversation because, yeah, you've been amazing on here, and
And I would
I
love
hope.
to also, yeah, like schedule it back and have questions because I love connecting with people as well, saying what's coming up for them and then trying to help as best as I can. So, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Let's
and
do that.
maybe that's what we'll do next time. We'll ask them questions so we have an idea of what people want to hear from you.
Yeah,
Right
absolutely.
before. So I love that idea. So I appreciate because I'm always looking for new ideas as well because that's how I learn. And when we're learning, we're living, we're growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much, Elaine. We'll have you make sure you put your website and stuff in the links of where they can get your book. You've been an awesome guest. I love it. I love having you. And of course, we're going to have you back. I want to thank everybody who has been watching. Be sure to check out my website, unlockingfreedominnature.com. If you have any questions, you can always either put them here, direct message, and I will get back to you. So if I don't, it's usually because I'm out hiking or on the
You
lake and I
go.
don't
Yeah.
get messages there. So thanks for being here. We really appreciate you. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Bye bye.